Hey, I'm T.O. I started this series because I wanted to do a YouTube show where I talk about the games from my early childhood. I know, original, right? But these games are some of the original, earliest classics. And I don't think they get as much attention as they should. Now, you see this in front of me? Of course you do. And a lot of you already know what this is, and for those of you who don't, you're kind of dumb. The title's right down there. Go ahead, give it a moment, I'll let you read it. Okay, so anyway, this happens to be one of the most popular game boards, yes I said boards, from the early 80s. And some people even call this game timeless. But does Centipede truly hold up to this day? Yes. Yes, it does. Kind of why I'm doing this video right now.
Centipede. What can you say about this game? The thing is, it's far from the typical video game. There is no concrete plot or backstory aside from what you see on the screen, which is kind of weird. And when you try to give it a plot, the whole thing ends up seeming more weird than what you started with. What's truly interesting, intriguing, and magnetic about this game is the gameplay itself. It has multiple layers and subtle intricacies, so subtle you might not have even noticed it. Plus it has buttery smooth controls and bright pretty colors. And Centipede. I'm here to shed some light on what it is that makes this game great. So grab your trusty fly swatter and a spray take a cap tan. Let's kill some bugs. I'm ready. Okay, you play as... And well, your weapon, you shoot... Okay. Here I am, episode 1, and I find myself having trouble talking about a game. Oh! I'm done. My career is over. Well, that was fun.
In order to try and venture a guess as to what the hell that thing even is, I'm going to come at this from an angle of action-packed, possibly drug-inspired nerd fiction. Was the 80s after all. As opposed to just going with the easy joke and saying what I'm sure some of you are thinking. Peener.
You are a snake. You're a snake. King of the grasslands. Armed with a tongue that shoots deadly laser blasts. And it is your duty to protect your mushroom patch from an insect invasion. A never-ending onslaught of rampaging centipedes and their meddling cohorts.
Not bad, right? I mean, it would certainly pass for a bizarre 80s arcade game plot. In fact, it's kind of tame by those standards. Well, let's see how the makers of the game explain it.
This is from the operation manual of the arcade version. The player shooter is represented on the screen by a somewhat humanoid head.
Yeah, now I see it.
In the home console versions, most notably for the Atari 2600, the player is given a name and a storyline. You're now Oliver, an elf who uses his magic wand to protect his village from a giant centipede who's been terrorizing the area. You also look nothing like this now. You look like this. The best description I've read for this character comes from Strategy Wiki, who refers to it as Bug Blaster. Now we're talking. Sounds like a dude with a can of Raid, just going to town on those bugs. Get some.
Hey, at the very least, it's better than Peener. Like, you know, the more I think about that, the weirder it gets. Yes, even more than it should. Like, how would that even be a plot? Are we suddenly going blue, Atari? Should we rename this game Beat 'em and Deed 'em?
Am I going to look out my window one night and see this creepy dude just standing out on my front lawn? Hey, what are you doing? I'm just trying to kill centipedes. We'll stick with the snake theory. Yeah, the snake thing works. We'll call him Snaky. So you pop in your quarter, hit the 1-player start button, and whoosh, the game starts. No 3-second head start screen that says, get ready. It's just, thank you for your patronage. How many players? Good, now die. Immediately, you hear the menacing march of the centipede making its way left to right to left down the screen. Okay, I'm down here, and it's up there, and it's getting closer. I guess I'd better... Pew. Right off the bat, you experience the first game element. You're shooting at a moving target. There were games that came before Centipede that had this element, but this target is a little faster. And it's not just one target, it's several. And if you hit the centipede anywhere except its head or tail, it splits from where you hit it and becomes multiple series of targets. Now things get interesting. And you're like, it's okay, I can hit those, no problem. Bam. Nope. And that's where the mushrooms come into play. Not only are they a hindrance to your laser shots,
legit.
but they also serve as a lateral barrier to the centipede. Once a section can go no farther in one direction, it drops down a line and goes in the opposite direction. This can throw off the timing of your shot. Except if you have 2 columns of mushrooms close to each other, then once the centipede gets there, you can just, yeah, that is so satisfying. Just blah, 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 blah.
Now stick with me here. I know there's a lot of description of the game, and I'm not even done getting into all the elements and intricacies and blah, blah, blah. But already, it seems like a pretty fun old school style game, right? Nothing beats a good pew 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 shoot 'em up, right? So stick with me a little while. I'm getting to something here. Sit right there. Because you're gonna see something in the game's design that makes it awesome. Maybe in a way that you never realized before.
Notice when you shoot any section of the centipede, it turns into a mushroom on the spot where it was hit. Usually, of course, the farther down the board you kill a centipede section, the more of an obstacle the resulting mushroom becomes. But if you're skilled or lucky enough, you can actually create a wall of mushrooms to protect you from the centipede. I can't do that. That's pretty nifty. Now we see another recognizable gaming element. These days we refer to it as the tower defense genre. In other words, don't let that bug get all up in your shit. You now have this sense of impending danger. God, he's getting closer! And an urgency to complete the objective before the enemy reaches you. You're now drawn to care about what's happening in the game. But you keep missing and missing. Oh no, the centipede's reached the bottom! Is I dead? Well, not if you get out of the way. Unlike its predecessors that were top to bottom shooters, your character's movement isn't limited to just left and right. You can move freely around a limited area. Problem is, once the centipede reaches the bottom, it'll start making its way upwards, get to that same height that you're limited to, then start back down again. It has made a home in your area, your station, and the more time you take to kill all sections of the centipede, the more extra sections come in from off screen. Eventually, you kill it. Then, much like nearly every classic arcade game, it's hose her down, start the ride up again, play till you die. And you will. But ooh, look, all the colors changed. Pretty. Of course, that's not all there is to Centipede. We gotta talk about the other enemies. The enemies of Snakey. That's his name. First, you have the fleas, who fall from the sky, dive bombing towards the bottom of the screen in a straight, vertical path, randomly dropping mushrooms as it goes. These take 2 hits to kill, and will kill you if they hit you. Easy to avoid and not very threatening. Next, you have the scorpions, which behave similarly to the fast-moving, hard-to-shoot enemies that fly across the top of the screen in several classic arcade shooters. But unlike the latter, which just gave you bonus points, congratulations, you can shoot a thing. The scorpions can move across the screen at random heights, but not low enough that they themselves can touch you, and are designed specifically to help the centipede kill you. They poison every mushroom they touch, and when a centipede head touches a poison mushroom, it becomes enraged and heads directly for the bottom of the screen. Now it's in your zone, and things get more difficult. You can stop its descent by killing the head, but it's not the safest idea to get under that thing once it's eaten poison shrooms.
But isn't that just life?
And now we come to the last class of enemy in this game. Its behavior is more cut and dry than any of the other enemies. Problem is, it will kill you far more often than any of the other enemies. I'm referring, of course, to the spiders.
Like centipedes is sort of, and it came out sort of because I don't like spiders. That's a lot of how that happened. And the spider in that is very cartoonish and mischievous and just irritating, really. And I liked, having my way over a spider.
In this vast, bottomless ocean of videos that we call the internet, where top 10 lists about anything and everything video games are about a nickel a dozen,
Ooh, that's cheap.
I'm very disappointed to see that there was not even one honorable mention of the spider and centipede in those most rage-inducing enemies in a game, or top 10 annoying moments in video game history lists, or anything like that.
These things can easily steal your quarter, single-handedly and mercilessly. They can make you feel like the worst centipede player that ever lived in a heartbeat, even just one game removed from beating your local high score. It's happened many times to me. I'll have what I consider a decent game. There are my initials at the top there. Thank you. I'll be at the Walmart downtown this weekend signing autographs. Then I'll pop in one more quarter and promptly lose all 3 of my lives in less than 3 minutes. How? The fucking spiders, that's how. But the thing is, they're so simply designed. They just move up and down and diagonally from one side of the screen and out the other. But they do so erratically. You can't fully predict its pattern. Their only purpose is to kill you, and sometimes they'll eat some mushrooms along the way. Their simplistic nature, however, is what makes them so deadly. For one, you probably got killed by one because you were distracted focusing on the upper part of the screen, chasing the centipede or getting that scorpion or whatever. Or maybe you psyched yourself out by overthinking its next move and you ended up just running right into it. Yeah, they'll get you. Oh, they will get you.
So now the game's all laid out for you. You know what to do and what to avoid. Time to start shooting things and getting that high score, right? Well, that's just the thing. Game's pretty hard. I mean, that was the idea. It's an arcade game. It was originally designed to get as much money from you as possible, 1 quarter at a time. Drop my money. Oh. Found a quarter. Yeah, 50 cents now. Naturally, you'll need to form a strategy. And this is where the game design shows its sheer cleverness.
The mushroom placement on the board, or field, or whatever you want to call it, is randomly generated at the very beginning of each game. From then on, how and where they are created, destroyed, and laid out is ultimately decided by you. Centipede segments turn into mushrooms wherever you shoot them. Fleas only appear when there are very few mushrooms in the lower rows, something you can control easily by shooting mushrooms in the lower area or leaving them alone. If you don't want spiders to eat certain mushrooms, you can try to shoot them down beforehand. The same goes if you don't want scorpions or fleas to affect the mushrooms on the board. And all mushrooms stay exactly as they are from one level, or centipede wave, to the next. They're not wiped from the board and then regenerated at random. Whether you're less skilled and just playing to shoot and survive, therefore letting the mushrooms come and go as they may, or you're able to manipulate how and where mushrooms are created and destroyed, you are responsible for how the game is laid out for you in future boards. To put it another way, you are designing the levels as you play the game. That's freaking brilliant! Atari should have put it in a credit screen. Game design, Donna Bailey and Ed Logg. Level design, you. Just look at all these different strategies that the pros have created by being able to manipulate the layout of the board. The blob strategy, the safety zone strategy, the trap strategy, the tunnel strategy. You can seemingly be as creative as you want when formulating a way to rid the board of all the insects and rack up high scores using just your laser beam and the environment itself. The game starts to become almost like a primitive form of... Do I say it? Do I dare say it? A sandbox game.
Holy crap, think of all the different ways you can go about playing this game. And that's just the thing. You can just decide, I don't want to get too fancy. I don't want to make up no strategy. I just want to shoot bugs. And it'll still be a fun game because of its simplicity.
Nolan Bushnell, founder of Atari. You know the guy? Yeah. He had a famous saying that is now known as Bushnell's Law. All the best games are easy to learn and difficult to master. Now, I remember the board game Othello, you remember that? Yeah. Which had a different phrasing of Bushnell's Law printed on its box. A minute to learn, a lifetime to master. That should be the motto for any good or great game. And also the motto for any game developer, indie or otherwise, who wants to create a game that will be considered as good or great by its consumers. Go ahead. Have a plaque made, put it up on your wall there. Be inspired. Donna Bailey and Ed Logg did it in 1980 with primitive sprites against a black screen that followed simple rules and patterns, powered by the same early day microprocessor that ran vehicle dashboards and medical equipment in the 70s, and written in what's now an ancient and nearly dead programming language. Hell, the only significant visual aesthetic the game offered was, look at the pretty colors change from level to level. But as a game, in the purest sense of the word, it's still awesome and still holds up. Now, some of you might be saying at this point, holy crap, where can I find this game? I want to try it out.
It's likely you can find one of these machines anywhere locally where you live in your neighborhood. I'm here at the Laundry Lounge near Buffalo, New York. I go to this laundromat all the time and I see this puppy a lot. And I play it every time I'm here to do laundry. Now, with some arcade games, you'd have to go and actually find, if they exist in your town, an arcade, and the machine might be there. With this game, however, you can go to a laundromat, like I'm in right now, a restaurant or bar, or any other place that might have one or two arcade machines lying around, and you're likely to find at least one of these. And the best part is, not expensive at all. The original 25 cents that it cost since 1980. Boom. $1 right there, you're playing Centipede.
I kind of like how they put the cabinet right next to one of the waiting areas where people fold laundry and watch TV. Nothing like hearing loud beeps and boops while trying to watch The Price is Right or Judge Sassy Marie Purvick.
Trying to watch puppies. Look at that. I can't enjoy the puppies. Goddamn game running over here. Puppy. Oh, cute and shit. Yeah, you're a cute puppy. Yes, you are, goddammit.
But if you don't have access to the original, there are plenty of other options. None of which are quite as good, but they're out there. This game was ported and re-released numerous times on nearly every platform out there, so I'll help you out a little by pointing you towards the better versions. If you own an Atari 2600, you can find a copy of this game pretty cheaply. As alluded to before, it's graphically, well, rectangles. And you're Oliver the Elf now. Whatever. But the centipede and the spider are actually fairly represented on the screen. Sound is pretty good too. The gameplay is pretty decent, and that alone makes this version worth picking up. My only real issue is that the controls rely on a joystick rather than a trackball like the arcade version. If you prefer the trackball, the ColecoVision and Atari 5200 each have really good ones you can buy to play their respective ports of the game. The ColecoVision release is pretty good, but the 5200s is very close to the original. The arcade version was replicated to Arcade's greatest hits, the Atari Collection 1, on multiple consoles. The look, the sounds, and the mechanics are nearly identical to those of the arcade. Even on the Super Nintendo. Not bad. My recommendation, however, is the PlayStation 1 version, if you have a compatible trackball, or mouse, to play it with. If you're limited to the current consoles you own, they did release another arcade replica on Game Room for the Xbox 360, which was a free download, until it was discontinued. At the time of this episode, there's pretty much no support left for this game. If you haven't downloaded Game Room and purchased the full version of Centipede for it by now, you won't be able to. Kinda sucks. If you have an iPhone, iPad, or Android device, there's the Atari Greatest Hits app. For about $1, you can get the arcade and Atari 2600 versions of Centipede and its sequel, Millipede. The trackball controls are smooth, and the touch and swipe interaction makes this feel like an actual trackball. This is a worthwhile purchase. More so if you have an iPad or Android tablet. The smartphone version is really good, but doesn't give your fingers a lot of room to move and work with all the buttons, especially if you have fat fingers like myself.
So that's Centipede. For those of you who have never played it or heard of it, I hope I've intrigued you at the very least to go and check it out for yourself. Now, of course, I didn't cover every little nuance of the game, and I didn't gloss over the entire history of its origins or its developers. You'll notice I didn't make any mention of the rebooted versions Atari's released over the years with different game modes and updated 3D graphics.
And I didn't even talk about Millipede, the game's sequel. It's pretty good. It's basically Centipede, plus a few additional features. Faster gameplay, a lot more mushrooms, a few more types of bugs, some DDT tanks that explode when shot, and a bonus anxiety attack. Good lord.
But you see, none of that is what this show's all about. You see, I created simpler times, not because I'm one of those super crazy nostalgic types, even though I kind of am, but I wanted to show appreciation for how innovative these games were, and how fun they still are. You see, back when games like Centipede were being made, the concept of playing a game was still very fundamental. You had board games, party games, backyard games, and they all followed the same formula. A basic set of rules and a simple objective. And the amount of fun you had depended on the creativity and the imagination that were added to that formula. It's a concept that I think a lot of people today take for granted, even though it still lives on in the games of today. So it's good to see timeless games like Centipede live on through today, for us to play at home, or even on the go. But again, with these newer versions, we sometimes run into this problem of having to play the game using a joystick or directional pad. You know, what's wrong with that? I mean, what's wrong with using our handy-dandy joysticks? I mean, we've been using them for years to play games. I mean, what's wrong with that? The answer to those questions in the next episode. Until next time, I'm T.O. Have fun, be well, keep it simple.
I'm frightened. Frightened kids playing their goddamn video games. Watch weather here. I'm trying to hear when it's going to snow in the winter in Buffalo. How am I supposed to know? Kids with their punk computer games. Want to watch Vividcast. Now with temperatures. 16, 15, 17. I want the Patchy Frez Drizzle Pass. And I just want a few Eve snow showers. I could use some PM breaks.